Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Not Your Average Tea Time podcast. I'm your host, Tobaria, and today we have a really good episode for you. So, I recently tweeted out a clip that Joe Klatt, college football insider, put out about his top five prospects as of right now in the summer for the 2027 NFL draft. And so I put that out and I said, you know what? I really like this list. However, it's missing one player. And I think this player has the potential to be the first overall pick in the 2027 NFL draft. And that player is Dylan Stewart, the edge rusher out of South Carolina. So before I get into my list, because I put together one that, spoiler alert, features Dylan Stewart, I want to talk a little bit about Joel Klatt's list here. So at five, he had Jordan Seaton, the offensive tackle from LSU. He started out in Colorado under Coach Prime. He ended up going to LSU to join Coach Kiffin, and that's who he has at five, which he has all the talent in the world. I can see that. At four, might surprise you, he had Arch Manning, quarterback from Texas. Now, it might surprise you because of who he had ahead of Arch Manning, but he had Arch Manning at four and said, hey, he found his stride later in the year. And with that, he is positioned himself, if he has another year, another good year, like he had in the second half of last year, to be the first overall pick. So watch out for Arch. And he said, he's a Manning. Don't overcomplicate it. Kid is made of the right stuff. At three, he has Dante Moore, the quarterback from Oregon. Now, I think he said Dante Moore just has more tape experience, stuff that he's shown. He's having another year at Oregon, get him more starts under the system. And he thinks that Dante Moore is better right now than Arch Manning. At two, Leonard Moore. I'll be the first to tell him myself here. I really don't have any idea who Leonard Moore is. It's probably a product. I haven't watched a ton of Notre Dame games. So I'm going to be very intrigued about what he can do. I'll look at some tape before the season starts and see if he's worthy of the number two pick, number two ranking for prospects. Everything I've seen so far says he is. And when you have a shutdown corner like that, you have to put him in the top five. So we will double back later and see if he deserves that spot. And number one, we have Julio Jones Jr., a.k.a. Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver from Ohio State. That was Joel Klatt's top five prospects for the NFL draft. And I just put it out there like, hey, guys, I like this list. This is a good list here. I'm thinking we need some Dylan Stewart in here somewhere. So people started liking that post, reacting to it. It's out there. You can go see it and watch it for yourself. But in the meantime, I kind of want to transition to my top five here. And it's very similar, but different. Honorable mention, I left out Jordan Seaton and another offensive tackle, Trevor Gooseby from Texas. I think if it wasn't so many quarterbacks and a Dylan Stewart and a Leonard Moore and a Jeremiah Smith in this draft, then one of those two would definitely be top five. And they still have a chance to go top three, depending on how the NFL season shakes out here. So I'm acknowledging their talent, but seeing right now, they do not have a spot in my top five. In my top five, though, starting out, Dante Moore. I heard somebody compare him to CJ Stroud. And depending on when you made that comparison, it could have either been a very good thing or it could have been the worst insult in the world. Because CJ Stroud had probably the best rookie season anybody's ever seen for a quarterback. And he followed it up with probably the worst playoff performance anybody's ever seen from a quarterback this year. Houston should have beat the New England Patriots in that playoff game, but CJ Stroud could not stop turning the ball over and making mistakes. The Houston Texans have since come back and addressed that offensive line, revamped it completely this offseason. However, he still has to show improve. So if Dante Moore can have a CJ Stroud like career, I think he's worthy of the top 5 slot here for NFL prospects. For number 4 for me, this is where I have Leonard Moore. Hey, look at that, double Moores. But the cornerback from Notre Dame, and he is somebody, like I said, I got to watch more of. But when you have the fundamentals down, when you can just take away one side of the field, you belong in the top 5. But it's just one of those deals. At 3, I have Arch Manning, number 3 for me. Like I mentioned earlier, he turned it on in the second half of the year, and his trajectory is just going to keep improving. There are a lot of Arch Manning fans out there who are just continually just showing his wide receivers dropping passes. I think somebody calculated it out, and like he had the most drop passes last year for a quarterback, and like 8% of his passes that he threw were dropped, which is an insane stat. He's also the most mobile Manning that we've ever seen. So if he gets to a team that doesn't have an offensive line, he can escape the pocket and make something happen. That's going to be to his advantage in the NFL. And with the wheels and with the arm, he deserves a top 3 spot. Quarterbacks are hit and miss though. Like part of me wanted to say 50% of quarterbacks in the first round hit, and that's not true. I believe it's like 1 out of every 5 or every 4. So when you think about it, you have a 20% or 25% hit rate on quarterbacks. Some of them are bust proof. Like Andrew Luck was probably bust proof. I'm trying to think who else. Peyton, bust proof. Peyton Manning. But then you got people like Trevor Lawrence who should be bust proof. And don't get me wrong, he's had a much better second half of his NFL career. But the first half, he had some stinkers. So he's up there. He's one of the better prospects. Caleb Williams was high risk, high reward. Same with Jaden Daniels, and the book is still out on those 2 guys. So quarterbacks, you got to have them. They're value to the team, especially when they show greatness in college. Can't be overstated. That's why I have Arch at number 3. At number 2, the man in which this podcast is built around, Dylan Stewart, the edge from South Carolina. When you watch his production, just the clips and highlights of him rushing the passer, it is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Like, this dude was made to rush the passer. He has the speed, he has the bend, he can use his hands. He has almost a complete pass rush package. And the only thing that anybody has ever said negative about him is he needs to practice defending the run a little bit more, which is a fair statement. You look at a player like the Jets drafted and Will McDonald. Some games he can have 4 sacks, but other games he's so skinny and thin, he has trouble defending the run. Now, that's something he can definitely improve on. Dylan Stewart is not as skinny as Will McDonald the fourth is, but man, when you see him dress the passer, it looks like vintage Von Miller, who was probably the best pass rusher I've ever seen off the edge. Those guys don't come every year in the draft. There wasn't a Dylan Stewart with the bend in the pass rush in this year's draft. They thought the closest thing to it was David Bailey, who the Jets scattered to, but he doesn't have the bend or the speed that Dylan Stewart has. So if you haven't seen his footage, highlights, tape, whatever you want to call it, just take some time, go watch it. South Carolina, you can watch on defense. You can watch Dylan Stewart do his thing, and then on offense, you can see Lenore Sellers, another quarterback, is coming out here. Try to throw the ball. A lot of potential with Lenore Sellers, and we'll do an episode on him and other quarterbacks later. But South Carolina should be fun this year. And number 1, I don't want to speak too much on him, but we have baby Julio Jones, Jeremiah Smith, and It kills me, and I'm not gonna get down in the dumps yet here for my Jets, but hopefully they're good enough that they're not picking in top five next year. They have Geno Smith at quarterback, who, ironically enough, is Jeremiah Smith's cousin. But in a perfect world, forecasting out here, the Jets are good enough. They make the playoffs. They have pick 16, 17. Probably won't go too far, but pick 16, 17 of their own pick. And in this universe, the Indianapolis Colts are terrible. They get the first overall pick, which the Jets own. Now, with that first overall pick, or second, could be third, they take an Arch Manning, a Dante Moore, a CJ Carr, or Darian Mensah, or whoever is the quarterback that rises from this class with the Colts pick at one or two. With their own pick, you can get creative with it. Their offensive line is solidified. I don't know. They just took David Bailey at two this year, but maybe, you could package those other two first round picks to move up for a Jeremiah Smith, a Dylan Stewart, and kind of mimic it like the Houston Texans did. The Houston Texans, the year they drafted CJ Stroud second overall, they moved up to number three to take Will Anderson, who just got paid the most guaranteed money by any quarterback, by any non quarterback NFL player in NFL history. So maybe in a perfect world, at two or one, you take a quarterback of the future, Arch Manning. You take those two second first round picks you have, and you move up and get a Jeremiah Smith and have just two alphas in your wide receiver room. Now, budget allocations and roster management probably says maybe that isn't the move, but who knows? Or, you take Dylan Stewart, get the best pass rusher I've ever seen since Von Miller come out of this draft. Get him on the edge. Probably won't happen. They'll probably stay put. They'll take Arch, and then, depending on how this year goes, maybe they take Leonard Moore. Depending on how the year goes for him and for the Jets, they take Leonard Moore. But those are my top five NFL prospects that I'm excited to see perform this year. And there is so many others out there. I can keep going for days. However, what I want to do is do like a weekly roundup now, a little transition here on NFL news that has happened this week. So, draft concluded, and we got a lot of quarterback news here, surprisingly. The Pittsburgh Steelers decided to tag Aaron Rodgers, and the tag is like some kind of weird tag that they did. I've never heard of it, and I've been following the NFL for like 15 years now, but I've never heard of this tag. Apparently, it gives Aaron Rodgers a 10% raise from what he made last year. And if he doesn't sign it or get traded or make his decision by training camp, no other team can negotiate with him. Now, Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk was wondering if this is maybe a move to entice him not to come back. While other people have speculated that maybe Bo Nix, the quarterback for Denver Broncos injury, is worse than people thought, and maybe they were snooping around trying to get Rodgers to join them finally. And he just, still is like, nah, we got to block that. You should do us or nobody. We waited for you for so long. So that's an interesting development. Somebody said maybe we got like 2 weeks until we find out what he's going to do. But in the meantime, the other quarterbacks that the Steelers currently have are Mason Rudolph, who they've had for a while, but there was some speculation that maybe he can get traded after the Pittsburgh Steelers selected Drew Aller in the draft, the 2026 draft quarterback. So maybe Mason Rudolph is gone. They have Will Howard, who they drafted last year, who they seem to like, but he hasn't shown much. Rodgers played the whole year, and Will Howard got hurt in training camp, so we didn't really see him throw the ball. They drafted Drew Aller in the fourth round, I believe, and they said he has some Ben Roethlisberger type throwing traits. I don't want to say tendencies because that can mean one of two different things. And maybe they have Aaron Rodgers. So that's your Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. In other quarterback news here, um, former Cincinnati Bearcats, now Texas Tech Red Raider quarterback Brendan Sorsby is entering rehab for a gambling addiction. Now, there's reports out there that he's made like 1,000 bets a day, which is insane to think about. And basically, all the rumors are out there floating that the NCAA might just decide to just ban this guy and not let him play. Now, if that happens, he's probably going to sue. And if he sues and wins, he comes back, he plays that year. But really, the big news is his potential to go into the 2026 NFL supplemental draft. Now, it's a draft that happens when a player, something happens and they aren't allowed to, or not allowed and foresee, and they can't do the regular draft. So this happens after the regular draft. And it's a blind auction. The last time I think I remember anybody being in it was Terrell Pryor, wide receiver for the Browns. So there's a lot of speculation about what kind of draft capital would getting Brendan Sorsby require. I know Cody on here said, like, I give up a fifth for him because he has all these issues and things like that. He has to figure it out with the gambling stuff. But I don't know. A lot of other people are saying, hey, give up a second for him. We have two of those next year. Give up a second, bid a second. If we get him, then we solve our quarterback issue. If he's good and pans out, we solves our quarterback issue a year sooner than we thought. And the Jets, I keep saying the Jets, still have those 3 first rounders next year that they can use to really flush out the team or trade for a prospect. So I don't know. And the moonshot scenario here is you give up one of those first round picks in order to get Brendan Sorsby. And I don't know. It's the Jets. He's probably not going to be a Jet. But some team, if he loses that lawsuit and if he is banned from the NCAA, will get a really good quarterback if he can get the off the field stuff done. Other quarterback news here. See, I told you it's a round robin of quarterback news here. Mary Kay Abbott, the beat reporter for the Cleveland Browns, reported that Deshaun Watson has an inside track on the Browns quarterback job. And the Browns are hoping they have their starter solidified by June 11th. And I think that's the end of their rookie minicamp. So they hope to have an idea of where things are at that point. And this made the waves because Deshaun Watson has been horrible with the Browns so far. Suspensions, injuries, but they're paying him a lot of money to be a starter. However, they also invested a lot of time and resources into that quarterback room with other picks like Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel. And this year, they also drafted a rookie, Taylor Green, in the 6th round. Now, everybody was hoping Taylor Green, because he's big, he's fast, like he stays a quarterback. But there has been some speculation out there that maybe they try to move him to a wide receiver. And he's like, no, I'm a quarterback. We've heard the story before. No, I'm a quarterback. When they got drafted, they said a lot of people were speculating that Deshaun Watson's on the out then because there's no way you have enough reps for everybody in that room to develop. Took Dylan Gabriel higher than Shedeur, and they just took just Taylor Green. And I don't know. People came out and said, hey, not so fast. This is nowhere. Nobody has an inside track. Everybody is at level 0 right now. And we're going to get this thing figured out. But don't worry about that. So we could be looking at a quarterback room of Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, and Taylor Green, or probably Dylan Gabriel. Taylor Green, they took him in the 6th. They'll probably cut him. And then when they cut him, he will come back as a practice squad quarterback until Deshaun Watson's off the books, probably next year. And this is another team, like they might take a quarterback again next year. They might actually do it. CJ Carr has been somebody that's sell mark to them. So this is an interesting little quarterback room to watch here. Another I got actually more quarterback news here. I'll make this one quick. Um, Former Giants quarterback Russell Wilson visited with the Jets. Um, there's interest on both sides to get a deal done for him to come to New York and back up Geno Smith. And allegedly, Geno Smith was asked by the administration, who do you want to back you up here? Who are you thinking about for quarterback two? And Russell Wilson came highly recommended. But news also came out today that Russell Wilson has been talking with CBS in order to fill the void that Matt Ryan left when he went to work for the Atlanta Falcons. So it's either TV and probably retirement or one last ride with the Jets. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out this summer. And last bit of quarterback news here. The Ravens agreed to terms with undrafted free agent Diego Pavia, who was the quarterback for Vanderbilt after initially offering him a minicamp tryout. So they also have Tyler Huntley, who Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley. Let me put some respect on his name. And then they also signed Joe Fagano, the undrafted quarterback from UConn, who had a good year last year. So they signed all these guys, and then they also obviously have Lamar Jackson at the helm there. And it'll probably be Lamar 1, Tyler Huntley 2, and then their third quarterback, they're going to have Joe and Diego battle it out. I'm happy Diego got a shot after going undrafted. He was out there spouting off and saying F the voters and this and that. So, and he's also like 5'8". That's why he didn't get drafted. Close it out with this. The Rams agreed to terms with 18 undrafted free agents. I guess they are going with the motto more is better. The more lottery tickets you have, the better chance you have of one of them actually hidden. Couldn't tell you if there was anybody in there worth a damn, so I'm not even going to pretend to. Before we go, I'm just going to check here to see if there's anything else noteworthy. Nope, doesn't look like it. So with that, I want to thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Not Your Average Tea Time podcast. I'm trying to schedule some interviews here, so I think we got Dale Denton coming up. Then I'm trying to get Cody on, and then try to do some stuff outside the NFL world, like reach out to Ovi and try to get some Blackhawks hockey talk on here, and then reach out to Cam again, talk a little bit about basketball, how his Cleveland Cavaliers are doing. So stay tuned. I got some fun content coming, and I want you to be here and enjoy the ride. With that, please like, subscribe, listen on Spotify. Every little bit helps me. I'm having fun doing this, and I hope you are having fun listening. So with that, I want to thank you for listening to this episode, and I will talk to you later.